Hello, folks. Today is Wednesday, August 27th. It's SIG-Auth. Um, we have a pretty full agenda. I don't know. We have, I think we have, I don't know, I'm seeing if we don't have anyone new here. If you're new, welcome to SIG-Auth. We trying to think of all the intro stuff. We abide by CNCF Code of Conduct. You're welcome to introduce yourself if you're new, but uh, and have something you want to discuss. We are going through our agenda, which is on the linked Google Doc linked in the SIG-Auth README in the Kubernetes SIGs folder. First discussion topic we have today is 135 kept planning. So we're going to go ahead, probably jump right into that. And drive here. So we have walked through this list in our triage meeting. So this is kind of just to update folks on what we're planning on and thinking on for 135. The first item we have is structured authentication config, GA to 134. Trying to see, did we need to move this since we GA'd it to the back one?
There's some little bits here like
Okay.
adding distributed claim support for cell. I may get to that. I had wanted to remove the 64 limit just because it would be nice, but there's nothing on this list that's like all of it will be backwards compatible and none of it is strictly necessary. So this is kind of like stuff I may do if I get time this release, but
Okay.
um,
So none of this is like requires a cap. It's all, I mean, it falls under the current cap. It's not necessarily needs a new cap.
you're right.
Anything we're surfacing as config options to the user, like here's a new knob you have or a new thing, new capability that you can put in the config file that we probably want to describe somewhere in the design. We were sort of on the fence, like, do we evolve the current one? That's probably fine. We have caps that have multiple feature gates in them. You know, like this, the format was GA. We have this new field that's like progressing through. That's fine if we want to do it that way. If we want to call this one done and like spin off follow-up stuff into separate things, that's fine too. Mostly what we want is clarity. So whatever we think is clearest for state of things, it's fine.
Yeah. I was also going to leave the egress selector support in beta this release because I mean we're still working on consuming it downstream, so I want to at least have somebody try it.
One thing we've done with KEPs that have sort of several sub pieces is list out the feature gates.
Yeah.
Say this KEP has these 1 or 2 or 4 feature gates, and here's like the state of their stability level when they came in, what the plan is, just so that someone looking at it can understand what the heck is going on.
Yeah, I think we do need to update the cap. And Micah, can you make just a quick note in there that we just need to update the cap to match the stuff we have with all the feature gates now? Because I don't think we did that, at least unless I'm forgetting.
Jordan's on it. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan.
Okay.
No.
Go ahead. Anything else on that one? We're good.
I think we're good.
Okay. Cluster Trust Bundle, and sounds like we're keeping this in beta for 135. Wait for pod certs to mature. And
that is a choice unless people feel strongly to hear you're on the call, unless you felt like we should push.
So I have an interesting item later to talk about the change you potentially wanted on pod certificates, but I think I talked with Standa, and I think what we want to do is like cut scope on built-in signers from the pod certificates cap, try to bring that to GA in 135, so like get all the tests in place. Maybe we won't hit it. I don't know. But
GA
then
in 135. We're alpha. We're not going to skip beta.
What does beta give us?
It doesn't matter exactly at the moment, right? But like you need it no matter what, you have to have a delta between on by default and cannot be turned off. You always have to have that.
That's okay.
There's no path to GA for pod certs in 135. You can get to beta. You cannot get to GA.
I don't think that's what the description of alpha, beta, and GA stages say. But
Okay. I could use
yeah.
some help then fixing that because I wrote that and there was definitely a stage of enabled by default and still able to be turned off. I will double check and link.
Is it possible to do that with the like? What I don't want to do is do the rigmarole of make the APIs be under V1 beta 1 and then 3 months later turn around and do a whole migration to V1. Can they be V1 and on by default but still disableable?
Yeah, no, that rigmarole is the required rigmarole for all APIs, and if you want to change that, then that's a SIG-Auth/Cube conversation, not a SIG-Auth one.
All V1 APIs are able to be turned off in the first release. They don't lock on because of what David mentioned. Like brand new APIs, whatever release they make it to V1, that's the first time they've been on by default. And so you can still turn them off. You probably won't be conformant if we got our act together and got our conformance list in place. But we don't lock the feature gate that makes a new V1 API be on in the first release. Whether or not you should still go through a alpha, beta, GA, like that's its own question. But like we don't force you to serve a V1 API like with no mitigation opt-out escape hatch. So I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing. When David says like you have to have an opt-out, you have to be able to turn the thing off the first time it's on by default. That's true, and you still can even with V1 APIs. Like DRA just went to V1. The thing isn't locked on yet because this is the first release it's been on by default. So I think anything that's wanting to skip a beta endpoint phase has to justify that. Like that's not usual. It's not typical. So you have to justify that. Anyway.
Okay, well maybe there's no justification, but I think what we're planning to do is cut scope on the pod certificates kept and put the built-in signers in a follow-up set of keps.
Pretty sure David wanted the exact opposite of that last time we talked about it.
So I think we can demonstrate in a SIG-Auth repo or some other repo real usage of these.
Yeah, so I don't think that's
APIs.
scope. I think that's just saying you're not merging it into KK as part of the kept, which is fine.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe let's come back to this cert conversation since it seems to be larger, and I do want to actually get through the rest of the keps we said we would work on. But
Okay. The next one, ensure image pull kep changes. We're going to try and promote this to beta in 135.
Yes, Stunda said the main things left were some E2E tests and something about storage migration, but not in the REST API sense, but in the kubelet files on disk sense. He has PRs open for stuff. I think the biggest open question is the changes that SIG-Node is doing to the agnostic host image to have like a built-in registry that supports like private image pulls of some sort. So that's like the biggest blocker. But I think otherwise, Jordan, unless there was some other things that you had big concerns about, I think this one's really close. And I'd really love to see it get to beta this release.
I would love to see it get to beta as well. I saw a couple of pulls. I think I linked the like the one moving when image pull credentials are fetched for verification purposes. There was someone raised a couple issues about like unnecessary work that was being done in order to get credentials, in order to know if the pod had access to an image. And I hadn't followed it super closely, but it sounded like there were maybe some ways that this feature would like regress performance in a way. It would do expensive things to get credentials in order to do the verification. So Standa was going back and forth on the PR. It sounded like it was maybe a legitimate thing we needed to address. And I wasn't sure how big of a deal it would be to reorganize that or make it so that this wouldn't regress performance.
Do you have an issue or something?
I linked. You're talking about the ensure image pool cap?
Right. Yeah. So
I linked the poll 133.114, and so it references.
Sorry. So it's a comment on that PR.
Yeah, it's a whole. Yeah, someone proposed a change. They're like, this would be better, and then when we started reviewing it, we're like, actually, I think we have to do something like this, or we regress performance in some cases.
I see. I see. Oh, okay. So it's not a comment on this PR. It is the whole PR.
It started a whole thread, and Standa was digging into it, and I needed to come back to it once 135 spun up. So I would love to see this make it to beta. I think we need to fully understand what this was raising and make sure we address it.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Next one, projected service account tokens for kubelet image credential providers. We're keeping in beta in 135.
Yeah, so Anish said he's going to add some EDEs, but yeah, otherwise we weren't going to make any code changes. We are in the process of doing integrations downstream to make sure it actually works. But yeah, nothing major here. Does that sound right to you, Joey?
Yeah, I like having that available, solidifying it, and putting our focus on the image pool thing and making sure both of those sort of get parity before we graduate either one, because they touch each other all over the place. It's like the code is all over entangled.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Great. External signing for service account tokens, keep in beta 135. Wait for feedback.
I think, Micah, you said you guys were going to maybe integrate this soon to give us that feedback. So maybe in 136 we can GA it based on that.
Yep, that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. So otherwise, I guess maybe no work this release. Hopefully, that seemed right, Jordan. I didn't know if there was any open random nitpicks or anything that needed to be cleaned up.
I'm not aware of anything. We have it integrated. It's opt-in still, but we have it in production, and we had the opt-in. The beta is integrated and will go into production with 134.
Okay. Nice.
Cool. Pod certificates, signing beta in 135.
Sure.
So this is tied to that other discussion.
Yeah, let's talk about that in detail.
Size very big.
Yeah, very big.
What it felt.
Fine-grained kubelet authorization. Are we going to GA this?
I guess I didn't really keep up with this KEP, and it seems like it's on by default now. So no one's complaining, so maybe it's fine.
It is on by default. I haven't seen any complaints or issues. I also haven't paid attention to positive indications that it's doing things. I think it's a good candidate for promotion given how small it was and relatively straightforward. Maybe ping Vinayak to double check and get him to do the KEP update to say it's going to go GA in 135.
Okay. Hopefully that's small then. Maybe it's just in place, just might make a GA.
I think it's just a promotion, yeah.
Okay.
I'll tag him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Handling undecryptable resources, and we're playing beta for 135.
David, is Christoph still assigned to do this work?
So far as I know, yes.
Hello. Christoph, you're here.
Yes.
It's super late for you.
Yes.
Why you're here?
Yeah, I'm eating dinner while watching this. So yes, I was a bit busy with downstream, but I started working this sprint again on the topic. So I reviewed there are 2 unit tests progress by Abu Open. I reviewed them. So they need some approval in LGTM. And the plan is to continue with the dry run version of removing undecryptable resources. And the plan is to continue. So Abu said that there's an issue with the caching and that we need to propose a solution to SIG API machinery first before we can make it progress.
So it can't go to beta because there's a blocker with something in API machinery?
It could be edgy, yes. So
Okay.
I think it's the plan, but let's see how it will turn out. So I think he said that there are two solutions. One solution would be super easy and feasible. The other would take several releases and make it impossible to go beta soon.
Do you have a? Can you drop a link to the issue or the thread or?
I will ping Abu for details and to post it in the document.
Okay, thanks.
David, you're not familiar with any API machinery interaction other than just like decoding stuff here, right?
That's correct, but if something has come up, I would certainly like to know. The first attempt did not work well with watches. And so that ended up getting fixed before we took the first alpha. If something else has come up, we definitely want to know because we need old clients to continue to function well.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So this one seems like size unknown because that's what Christoph's conversation sounded like. Okay.
Okay. DRA admin access.
I don't think we planned any changes on this one. Actually, Rita, I meant to ask you because I think you had missed
Yeah,
the.
can you highlight the thing so you can see the comment?
Oh,
I forgot what I wrote there.
oh, yeah. The
If you click on beta, you should see the comment pop up. No? Okay.
they're right there. If you click on it.
There.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if this one is gonna go to GA because I think our Cap said at least 2 drivers, right? Or 2
I
adoptions.
mean, even if you ignore the specific number, right? Like it's on by default, and we do want someone to at least exercise it. So, like, I don't see any
Why
reason for us to go GA this release without some evidence that it worked
Yeah,
out.
I know at least one driver is going to integrate before December. So I think between SIG-Auth and SIG-Node, we can decide if this can go to GA or not.
But is there a strong
Like
need for it
remark?
to go GA? Can we just wait till 136? With the
Um,
expectation that we'll get 1 or 2 points of feedback.
Yeah, I think it would make sense to get more feedback. That's
If
why
we-
I said I don't know if we're gonna go to GA.
Yeah. Especially beta fields on GA types that are enabled by default. Like functionally, it's a field that is on in like 99% of clusters. The capability is there, so we're sort of exposed to the latent risk of it if there is a problem with it. So knowing that there's a driver planning to make use of it so we can get feedback so we can actually get to GA, that's good. I would say if we were just sitting here and like nobody's used it, I guess we'll just keep waiting. That would be a problem. Like we would want to seek out feedback. So waiting until we get that feedback is fine, but we should have a pretty clear view to like who's doing it, when that's going to happen. And if no one is going to do it, maybe we should prove it out with like a synthetic example.
Well, I've added to the DRA example driver, so that's one example, and then the real driver would integrate before December. So knowing that, what do y'all think?
I would count an example like a working driver that actually does a thing, even if it's an example one that we made.
Yeah, I have that.
And no negative feedback. I would be comfortable with GAing this. This is small enough, and like we've proven out the data flow and the protection flow. I think this is fine to GA. I think it's also fine to wait till December if we want to get like one real user. If we plausibly think we'll have one, like by the next release, that's fine. I wouldn't want to sit here in beta indefinitely.
Okay, let me just get back to you what SIG-Node folks think, I guess. It's good to know SIG-Auth is like kind of like both are okay, sounds like.
Yeah. I think the work on our side, like we don't expect any changes. We expect this to be a gate flip and we're done. And a docker.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
That's right. So it's very minimal work. Yeah. Do you think?
Okay.
Okay.
PSA changes for the host field stuff.
Do we want to beta this?
I have not followed this kept, so I don't have any real opinions.
Yes, we want to beta. Actually, I'm trying to remember. Did this? I'm trying to remember. I don't think this went in feature gated. PSA changes don't do an alpha, beta, GA progression. They version themselves. They say like 134 PSA.
That's a little weird, Jordan. I mean, I understand why, but it still feels a little weird.
I'm trying to remember this. Yeah, PSA changes don't have a server-side gate.
Seems a little weird, right? Like if you add, I mean, maybe it's fine. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
That kept at least needs updating to clarify what actually happened.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, this merged in 134.
Okay, if it's not gated and it merged in 134, is it just done because it has no gates?
Yeah,
that seems so sketch, but okay.
Okay.
Like, what if this one is broken, but you have other 34 protections that aren't broken? How do you opt out of this one?
You label those namespaces as enforce version 133.
Yeah, but that opts out of all 34 ones, not just this one.
This is the only change.
I understand.
I don't know. I don't know, Mo. It's worth revisiting and thinking about, can we make it better?
Okay.
Let me make a note.
I'm glad we don't change
Okay.
PSA very often.
Thanks for updating that. GA 134. Hardened kubelet serving cert validation.
Yeah, so see, I guess Guillermo's not on the call, but I think he has, I don't know if it's merged or not, but there's a PR to add the kind E2E that actually exercises TLS verification at all, because we apparently just don't do that in Cube and just rely on, I guess, the providers and like OpenShift testing this flow, I guess, which is ridiculous, but here we are. But I do plan on trying to get my alpha in this time around. So last release, I had spent a lot of time building like 3 POCs, and then I did like a deep review with Jordan, and we came to the conclusion that like 2 of the POCs were invalid because of code insanity. But I have a good path forward on this, so I think I can land that code.
Okay. That is awesome. Any other changes on this, or did you just leave it as alpha?
I'll put in some more details. I think this is probably like, it is medium sized now, I think, because I did a ton of work last release to figure out the POC stuff. But yeah, I can put in some more details after the meeting.
Okay. Cube RC allow list for client Go credential plugins.
Peter, you want to chat about
it? This is a preference. Oh, I'm sorry. Was someone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Peter's
So
to
allow the user to set up an allow list for client Go credential plugins, we're updating the kubRC configuration file to allow the user to specify an allow list. For example, there's been some comments on this, but the initial design was that an empty allow list would allow no plugins, and then otherwise there's an array of structs defining the conditions under which a binary can run. Initially, the only criteria will be the name or the path of the binary in question, but we're leaving it open so that in the future you can specify perhaps a hash of the binary. So if the hash matches but the name doesn't, then it's allowed to run. Or binaries that have been signed by some specific public key. I have submitted a draft PR, and some of the SIG CLI folks have already done some review there. A few things that need to be adjusted. So the initial implementation, it works, but it is showing undesirable behavior in that it will short circuit commands like kubectl config view that don't actually need the clients because they're just operating on the kubeconfig locally. So we need to address that, and then there are a few other comments, but it shouldn't take too much longer. Second time here, by the way. My name's Peter. Nice to meet you all. Not sure what kind of update I'm going to get. It's supposed to give. So hopefully that answer. If anyone has any questions about this, happy to answer them.
So
I'm trying to remember kubRC. That is something that only kube control pays attention to, right?
I guess today.
Okay. And the client Go, like exec plugins, that's a generic thing that any client that you can hand a kube config would parse and instantiate and be like, oh, to get my credentials, I have to exec this thing. Are we at all the idea that you don't want like a random kube config that you hand to a client to like expose any binary on your machine? That I like that concern. I like addressing that concern. I'm wondering if just doing it for kube control, just in the kubRC, is, if we're happy with that, if we're expecting things other than kube control to start looking at the kubRC preferences to inform how they deal with kube config files. It's kind of a like take a step back question, because up until now the kubRC I think only had like aliases for kube control and like changed the flag defaults for kube control commands, and so it was very kube
exactly
focused.
Yes.
This is like, so you have a kube config file and you want to protect yourself against arbitrary binaries. I don't know, was there any discussion of that in the first time I saw this was like the PR that opened, so I didn't really pay any attention to it. Yep.
So that aspect, to my knowledge, has not been discussed. So Mo had the initial discussions with SIG CLI back in June.
We don't have to go into that now. I was just curious if that had been maybe having someone from SIG-Auth who can kind of help work through questions like that, and maybe someone from API Machinery. API Machinery is like all the client Go generic client construction stuff. So someone from API Machinery and someone from CLI, like this lives at the intersection of those three. So having a person who can wear each of those hats. Some of us can wear multiple hats.
That is good advice.
Jordan, since I think you had started reviewing the KEP, are you okay being like the API reviewer for this?
Yeah, I can look at the 2 lines in the whichever file we end up putting this preference in, whether it's kubRC or client Go or something. Or yeah, I can look at the config.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So I think that's all for the
I think don't we have,
implementable.
I
What's
guess
that?
that's all for implementable, but I think we have a few more items.
Yes, we do have a few more. New that has kept could be planned for 135. I don't think we have any. Needs kept designed for 135. Default authentication to admission and other webhooks.
Yeah, so this is super early, but we've talked about this in the past. Micah, I'm sure you remember all the recent Ingress, Nginx kerfuffle, and I guess I won't get into it. But I've asked Peter to go back and look through our previous conversations and sort of try to distill it down into like what are our choices forward for this, and let's try to actually get a design. So this is not tracking like kept freeze. This is tracking like sometime in this release maybe we can agree on a path forward, and then interested parties might be able to implement it in some future release if they have time.
Okay.
Does that seem
Cool.
right?
Sounds good to me. Lucas,
Yes, then
conditional authorization.
yeah, I just realized that there were double mentions basically of that, but I'll try to merge them then later.
Conditional authorization and label and field selector support for all verbs is not the same thing though, Lucas.
I think they kind of are because
When you squint hard enough, they are.
yeah. Anyways, I building on the demo in or the walkthrough in beginning of June, I made now a proof of concept with all of those things working that we were talking about then. So now the next thing, so I have a webhook authorizer that computes the conditions and stuff based on policies, and then APIs or a patch basically that actually enforce the cell conditions. So the next stage is basically to write all of that up as a cap basically. So it's not going to make the 135 cap deadline, but I think if we can get agreement on the path forward during the 135 timeline on like where do we want to go, that's good. And it also kind of wraps the constrained impersonation, or it can also do the constrained impersonation at the same time, kind of by design.
Right. That reminds me, I think we skipped over constrained impersonation because I forgot to fill out my section, which I need to do. But yeah, I was working on like, I don't know, 80% there through the implementation I wanted for this. So but we can chat about it more because I think a big chunk of the agenda is about this, so it's fine.
So conditional authorization. I have not looked at this repo that is linked before. Micah, have you looked at it? Does it match? Does it match? Would you say,
Yeah.
yep, this is the one? Okay.
It can perform what we're basically writing code for constrained impersonation for today, and implement it basically via cell conditions.
Sorry, I meant the actual bit for conditional authorization required a bunch of communication bits of like evaluate this after the fact. And
yes, and this takes care of that.
Okay.
Yes, this takes care of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So I'll be curious to see how y'all are going about this, because I the more I've thought about it, the less I want it.
Would Lucas and I have been talking. I just it might be worth doing another demo on kind of this updated POC. It might be, we could definitely do a SIG-Auth demo, but it might feel more than a SIG-Auth hour to do a fuller explanation. So we might see if we can arrange just something that we can record or not record, to just have a fuller like demonstration of here's what we're doing, here's the motivation behind it.
Yeah.
A dedicated session that's like a mix of technical demo, but also like walkthrough of here's
Yeah.
how it's in and where, so like code tour and demo. And I agree, it'll take a long time, so we should probably give
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it will be a full hour, so let's schedule something for that.
Okay, because that would help me as well. some of the struggles I had with the presentation, I think we could solve by going deeper on like what does this call actually look like on the wire.
Yeah.
would help me. So
We've refined a lot down from both my previous like demonstration of Cedar and just the other demonstrations that we've done. I think that it doesn't require putting a new configuration language in Cube, but I think it can still meet the objectives that we want.
okay, great.
Cool. Next, workload identity and secret store sync controller.
Yeah, so Anish is going to look at this this release, but we talked, I think, a little bit in the past about the whole who was it, Flux folks had come by because they had some issues with tokens and stuff. And secret sync controller kind of has the same problem. But the gist of the problem comes in is that like the stricter your workload identity token exchange mechanism is with your cloud provider, the less likely this controller is to work in that environment. So this is sort of an attempt to perhaps, I think the general idea we have in mind is perhaps, including maybe a little bit more metadata and tokens to help bridge that gap, but we'll see what comes out of this. But this again is like try to get a design this release, not code.
I'm sorry, I was typing notes in a previous item. Which item are you talking about?
The workload identity for a secret sync controller.
Okay.
Yes, it's the whole like, when a node provisions tokens for a workload, like that's very clear, like what the workload is, where the workload's supposed to be. How can your cloud provider very carefully validate that all of that makes any sense?
Okay.
That all kind of falls apart when you have this random controller like YOLOing around and making tokens for other well, not even other workloads, but like other service accounts that don't have a workload attached, because that's literally the problem you're trying to solve, is to detach them from a workload.
Right. That's not very legible to Cube right now.
Yeah, exactly. So basically making it maybe possible to push that information somewhere such that,
Okay.
yeah.
One sentence in that bullet or a link to something would,
yeah, no, Anish just hadn't filled it out. He was supposed to fill it out. Clearly, we did the KEPS review meeting and then forgot to come back and do any of our to-dos, is what happens. So
That never happens to
it
us.
never happens.
We always follow up on our AIs.
Yeah. And then I don't know if RBAC++ really needs anything right now, because it sounds like we're trying to make conditional authorization the one true way to rule them all. So maybe at the end of the day, RBAC++, if we're talking about a REST API in Kubernetes that can do new fancy stuff, whether it's Kubernetes RBAC or like fancier RBAC, whatever you call it, I think that's requires us to be done mucking with subject access review first before.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I see them as this is the lower level, and then the higher level front end can be then RBAC++.
So one possible advantage to having two opinions is that if there is a simpler mechanism than what is proposed, there could be an influence on it, or if what's proposed just doesn't work for other use cases, right? Because as I recall, it was a specific like the expression of the conditions may significantly matter. Maybe if you have the sketch in your mind of what RBAC++ would be, Mo, if you could attend the discussion about conditional authorization, that would probably be helpful.
So I plan on attending the other
Okay.
one for sure. But I kind of take this maybe in a similar way with the whole pod certificates thing, where we want to prove out the API with some implementations. So I'm totally down with trying that out, basically using RBAC++ and Cedar or whatever, right? Like
Okay.
more than
That's
one.
fine. I just want to be sure that like whatever we make doesn't actually pin us in a way we don't expect. Whatever we make for conditional authorization doesn't pin us. If you have this idea in your head, I'm not yet sold on, or I'm not yet committed to this is how we will express this.
Yeah, no, totally. Like having multiple different things that could share the same lower level thing definitely needs multiple or good implementations before actually proceeding with the the lower level conditional authorization stuff for sure.
Okay.
Okay. Do we want needs cap not planned for 135? Do we want to go through this?
I did want to ask about that first one to you, Jordan. Can we delete it now because we have conditional impersonation?
Yes. I don't think we're planning on.
Okay.
I think that collapsed onto the
So that's
impersonation.
I don't think we need to go through any of the other stuff. I think the rest of the stuff has either been covered or like I think unless the only one that's kind of not been fully covered is like doing something with reference grant, but I think we've been in the holding pattern of like figure out auth stuff first and then see how we can do reference grant better with more flexible auth.
Yeah, Tim Hawking just like one of the bots went and closed the reference grant PR and Tim just asked that did we kind of not proceed with this, but I said that I think it also rolls kind of with the conditional or RBAC++ and similar things that like if we get those primitives, figuring out the reference grant will be easier on top. But doing them at the same time-ish, so we have a clear idea where we're going.
Yeah, I think fine. And then like the serving certs for pot stuff is basically already rolled into the KEP in the sense of we're gonna make a POC and etc. So I think that's fine.
We go back to our regular agenda.
I think so.
Okay. Good for us. We got through it. Next, replace deck seed cache. Min, is Min still here? Dang, man, Min was here. Okay. Since Min is not here right now, we will come back to that if he rejoins. Mo, is it time for Kubelet to start watching service accounts in the same way it does secrets config maps? You want to expand?
Yeah, so we have now, I guess 2 or 3 places in the kubelet where we are one-off fetching a service account like directly from the Kube API. And we had done it that way because we were, at least at the initial start of all of those individual changes, we were unsure about the performance characteristics of creating a bajillion new watches, one per service account for the kubelet. David, you told me that Wojtek said that was supposed to be totally fine, and maybe we should be able to do that. Jordan, you and Dims were pretty adamantly not in favor of creating all those extra watches last time I spoke to you guys about it. But we only had like 1 use case then. Now we're at like 3, I think. So I don't know. Has anyone's opinion changed?
I know we went back and forth on how the kubelet maintains its cache of config maps and secrets, and I'm not actually sure what the current state is.
Single item watches, I think.
Yeah.
Not for service accounts though.
No, not for service accounts.
Yeah, not for
Got some secrets.
Oh yeah, secrets and config maps. Yeah, the single item watches using that fancy. I think it's called a manager.
Yeah. I think the default. I think there's a tunable knob in the kubelet where you can tell it like whether to do lazy watch or like invalidating watch. Like every time a new pod shows up, does it invalidate the cache? I think the current behavior actually makes us vulnerable to happens before conditions where you change the config map, schedule a new pod shows up on a node, and the node's like, oh yeah, I've got a cache version of that secret or config map. I don't think it invalidates the cache when a new pod shows up using that secret anymore. So that's not really like relevant to the service account thing, but like when I talked to Wojtek about like switching that back, he made it seem like there were maybe still performance issues with doing the invalidation. And so before we clone what we're currently doing for config maps or secrets into a new thing, can we make sure that the current thing for config map and secret is working the way we want? Like we're actually reading it. We don't have latent bugs that we would be imposing on the service account path.
Do you know if is there like an open issue or anything, or is this just like a conversation you had?
There is an open issue. Let me try to dig it up.
Okay, so there's an open issue about secret config maps in this way, and we want to think about what that means for service accounts.
Yes.
Let's say we fix that part. Like, do we have like just a meta concern about we don't want to add these extra watches to the mix?
I don't have the cost of potential the kubelet watching potentially as many service accounts as it has pods clear in my head. Like if they're going to go over the same network connection, if it's HTTP2, we'll share a network connection, I think. The most service accounts it could be watching is the number of pods that it has, because a pod can't have more than one service account. So it's better than config maps and secrets, which could be like hundreds, thousands.
And currently the code is getting this multiple times per lifespan of pod versus a watch, which is decently likely to.
The kubelet doesn't fetch the service account for
that's what we're talking about. That's why we're talking about it. I think it does a live get, and we just added 2 more.
Yeah, so the service account for token for image pulls, that does a live get once per pod lifecycle, because it only does it on the start because it's for image pulls. So that's there.
Service account token for image pulls. So right now, no clusters in the world are using service account token for image pulls. Yeah. So yes, if you use that feature, yes, you'll do a live get.
Right, but we would also only establish this watch if we needed to. Right, it's entirely predictable from the shape of the pod. Do I need to watch this one?
The other 2 scenarios were invalidating tokens if their associated service account got deleted and recreated. So right now, the kubelet doesn't notice that happened. It makes a token. It's like the token's good for an hour or a day or however long. I'll come back and get another token in like 50 minutes or 20 hours, I forget which. And in the meantime, if the service account gets deleted and recreated, that token is not valid anymore. And the kubelet's like, that token's totally valid. So right now, it's not correct, but it's also performant because it's not polling service accounts. And 99% of the time, service accounts don't get deleted.
The other reason why this came up is because for the pod certificates, every time one of those has this, it is going to do it. So like we can predict at least some cases when this will happen. In the predicted cases, it seems like it would be strictly better to establish a watch to only retrieve this once and then get notified instead of retrieving it repeatedly.
The new features that are getting opted into, I'm a lot less concerned about having that kick up a watch, and that just being sort of the cost of using this new feature. You want to use a new feature? Great, you're going to have a watch now. An upgrade to 135 or whatever, suddenly making every node in the cluster watch every service account for every pod might be fine. It would make the token renewal case like more correct. I'd be happy with that, but I am less sure about how to prove that out without a big bang moment. So I'm not opposed to it, but let's try to figure out.
So maybe could we start off with the 2 cases that are very specific, the pod certs and the image pulls one? We go ahead and make the watches for those places, and we purposely just say we'll not do the token cache invalidation right now, just because that we're unsure about. So at least we fix the 2 places where we can get like obvious improvements without unboundedness.
That seems reasonable to me.
That makes the next step a lot smaller should we choose to take.
Okay. Yeah. So that's fine. I think so we can take that as maybe a step in 135. I don't know if we'll put that behind like a feature gate or something, but I don't know. We can put it in the 2 keps we have, I guess, as part of their changes. Okay, cool. So I think that topic is done. We got like 5 minutes. Do y'all just want to come back?
Mo, you have a couple ones. Do you ever want to pick which one of the next two?
I'm okay waiting
Neither
till
will
next
fit in
time
4
because
minutes.
neither one will fit in 5 minutes probably.
Okay.
So if anyone else wants to go, that's fine. David, I think I cut you off, but I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
I just said neither of your topics fit in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And neither does Tahir's.
Yeah. Tahir, by the way, I'm totally fine with scheduling more one-off meetings to talk about pod certs with the.
Well, okay. So from what Stana said, sounds like the change you might want is key value pairs in the body of the pod certificate request. I'm fine with that, but it got shot down during review. Like, it was originally in there.
Okay.
But is there some, like, can we not just do it with the annotations?
Sure, you could. That's just a different place of doing key value pairs.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that's the discussion to have, right? Is like, what is the shape of the APIs we want, and whether we're saying that, hey, if you're a signer that needs more configuration than can be observed purely from the pod certificate object, then like these are the patterns we expect you to do. That's okay. I think it's not necessarily a great place to start to tell any like fancier signer that, hey, you should go watch all pods on the cluster, so that way when a request comes in, you can figure out the other 2 pieces of information you needed to make it work.
Well, I don't know. Let's schedule one off or something, because we need to figure this out before 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Okay.
Rita, last call. If you can fit it in 2 minutes.
I don't think we can get through this in 2 minutes. Also,
Okay. Yeah, let's just push it next time. We
can also talk about it in Slack. I'd be happy to chat. Like,
okay,
if you
let's
want,
do that.
let's do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, happy to. I'll start it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. We'll call it a little early. Thanks, everyone. See you all in 2 weeks.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.